One of the best resources that we have at our availability to learn life as a whole is sports. Through being involved in sports, whether it be playing, coaching, administrative work, there's so much that we learn about ourselves, about other people, and about the world. And it all comes through sports. There's winning, there's losing. There are periods where you need to take time and honor commitment. There's an endless number more. Sports, in a way, teaches us how life can be lived and what life can be. I got involved in sports when I was probably right after first or second grade. I think that's when a lot of people get involved with sports, and it's their parents signing them up. And it starts maybe with soccer, because I feel like that's one of the go-to choices for sports, especially starting out for younger kids. And there's so much. There's so many opportunities. There's so many different sports. Soccer, you have baseball, basketball, football, though that's also a little bit different because of how hard not only it is to play in a degree, but also how damaging it can be. That's not to say other sports you can't get hurt, but football has that reputation. As the years go by, you have track and field and running as a whole. You have working out. Sports brings a lot of people together, and whether you end up continuing into sports or not after that first time that your parents sign you up to do a sport, you learn so much as a young child, as a kid. You learn that you can win, and that winning is fun. You learn that you could lose, and that that's not as fun. But also, every time that you step out there onto whatever playing surface you're at, there's either an equal or a lopsided chance that either or can happen. You learn, speaking of lopsided chances, you learn teamwork. And you learn that sometimes you can be on the winning team. You can get the luck of the draw, especially in early recreational sports. You can get on the team with the superb future multi-athlete, and they can carry you in a way. There are also times where you get put on the team where there isn't a standout person, a standout player. Either way, either time, and either team you get put on, you learn how to work cohesively with other people. You learn, in some cases, you learn plays. You learn how to prepare for the games, so you're learning to watch tendencies for other people, and in some cases how they play, and how to limit them. And when that happens to you, because you're not going to be perfect every time, there will be days where you have everything going for you, and other days, other games, where nothing can work out, nothing seemingly goes right. When that happens, what sports teaches you, and as such is the case for life, you look back at what happened, you look back at the bad times, and you try to get an understanding as to what went wrong. You look at what went wrong, and you think and devise a plan to make sure that that wrong doesn't happen as often, and as much as it did. And once that next game comes around, you implement it, and you see whether or not that works. Sports, and when you play a full season, at the end of the day, it can help you get into a routine, living routines as well. When you look at life, you look at who you're playing, you prep for that upcoming opponent, you go through the game plan. More often than not, there is a halftime or there's some form of intermission. Baseball, you have the between inning breaks and everything. You have soccer and whatnot where there's however long a half is. Could be 30, could be 45 plus as the years go on. And you learn how to tweak a game plan, and you learn how to make changes on the fly. And that's not just for the players, that's for when you're coaching as well. To a degree, sports is also a very easy way to study and experience a wide range of emotions, whether you're watching or playing. The last week, earlier on this month, if you didn't know, the New York Knicks won the NBA Finals. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I'm from the area. This isn't a Knicks jersey. It's a Yankees jersey. That's another team that it's been some time since they won something, though not as long as the Knicks. And you have the two sides there. You have people, I was in this boat, where there was a high level of joy. There was so many emotions that run into this because something hadn't happened in a while. You have the fans in San Antonio and those rooting for the Spurs, maybe even teams who were rivals of the Knicks, who were not happy, especially the Spurs fans. Not happy. I'm talking fans. Think of the players. Think of how much a Jalen Brunson or a Mikal Bridges or a Karl Anthony Towns, how much those guys, Josh Hart as well, OG Anunoby, I just actually named the starting five for the Knicks, okay. Think about how all of those people individually feel. Not just the starters, look at the bench, guys like Jose Alvarado, who are from the area. Alvarado was from Brooklyn, and he was on the team that won the Knicks' first championship since the 70s. On the other side, you have the Spurs. You have a Victor Wembanyama. You have the Stephon Castles, the De'Aaron Foxes, the Dylan Harpers of the team, where you get to that stage, and for about everyone, it's the first time you're there, and you come up short. Or if you're a longtime fan for the Spurs, that was the first time they were in the finals since they beat the Heat in 2014. And you think, if you've lived that long, the difference between celebrating the highs and understanding that the lows will happen. On the emotion side, whether it just be from celebrating or whatnot, sports also brings ample opportunities for you to have to control, and with a necessary need to control your emotions, because there will be times you come up short. Yes, I know in the professional sports world you can say that that person choked. That's not needed every time, but some people, that's the default. There are times where you will be so angry at yourself because of things maybe that have happened that are outside your control, or things that have happened under your watch, where you have to maintain your composure. Sometimes you can lash out. You know, basketball, think to that for example. I remember, and this is one of my somewhat memories, because I played rec basketball up until like 8th grade, and my team was winning. It was near the end of the game. We were in the fourth quarter. And the point guard for the other team, who was the main facilitator for them, he tried to shoot a mid-range shot over me, and I blocked him. And what I got for my good defense, while people might have cheered in the moment, especially my parents and the rest of my team, I got barged into to the point where I bit my tongue and I started bleeding. That's what sports can do. That's what sports can bring out of us, whether it be you're making the strong play on defense or whether for a split second you lose your composure and you just charge into someone. That's what sports can do to us at times. That's what sports can push us to do, whether we're thinking straight in the moment or not. There's all of those, and there are all of those emotions that can come from playing sports, coaching sports. I remember one time I was an assistant coach. I haven't coached since, don't worry. And there was the main ball handler for the team I helped with. And I kind of got lost into it, and this was a kid who was a lot younger than me. He was, if anything, as confident in himself as he needed to be. But there were times where, and another thing sports can teach you, you have to work as a team again. You can't really do it all by yourself. And this kid tried to do it all by himself. Sometimes he would go into that role. I don't have any ill will against him, but I screamed at him essentially to pass the ball. And I also ended up getting yelled at by one of my other friends who was the head coach for the team. He's like, "We don't do that." And in some cases, he was right to do that. In one stance, aka my stance, he yelled at me in front of everybody. Yes, I yelled at the kid. I didn't need to yell at the kid. As much as the sentiment was needed to get across, to be displayed, I didn't need to do it that way. And then the personal pride comes into it when all of a sudden someone yells at me in front of everybody, even though in my case it was justified to do the yelling. That's a little domino effect that can happen in sports. I think at times, yes, there are people, when you look at coaches, especially in rec league and whatnot, they coach different styles. And that's another thing with sports. You will have to play different roles for different teams at different levels, whether you progress to them or whether you are not allowed to. Because once you get to middle school, sports kind of flips on its head. Not that it doesn't. I look at basketball and AAU is a thing, and AAU has still been a thing. It's changed a lot since I did. But sports will have its time, and this is how it is for most kids, where they don't make the cut. I was one of those kids. I didn't make modified any of my years. I didn't make JV basketball. I remember straight up, I asked the coach, "Hey, can you tell me why I wasn't on the team?" And he said it came down to the fact that there were kids more athletic than me. I think that's a very common event that people will go through, because not everyone makes it to those teams. I had friends who made it to those teams, and I had friends who did not make it to those teams, and they were in the same group as me. But that's what sports brings. Sports brings its moments where, in the eyes of some people, you aren't good enough. And you can hold on to that like a grudge. You can let it define you. And with this next step, besides that defining part, which I think is the wrong way to go about it, you can decide to make something of yourself regardless of what other people say. You could continue to play the sport even if you're not playing at the highest level. I have friends now where they have a rec basketball team, an adult league, and they play. I go and I watch the games with them. There's still that camaraderie. Yes, maybe we aren't as quick as we once were that decade plus ago. Maybe our bodies aren't holding up as well as they would have held up in the past. But sports can be enjoyed by anyone. You can play at any age. If you get cut, you learn later on in life there are different avenues for you to be involved in sports for your livelihood that go beyond the playing of the games themselves. That's what happened to me. I got into media, I do broadcasting, and I've been able to technically, and I pinch myself. It sounds like I'm bragging when I say this. I will display it for the sake of the example. But if you do work in sports and maybe you got cut at some age, maybe you didn't get to play at high school or college, you can think, oh, these people are going to go off to do so much more than me. They're going to see so much more about the game than me. And in a way, because I've been working in media, I have seen things and covered games and gotten to know athletes at levels that have far surpassed some of those people who played on those teams that I was cut from. I've gotten to work at stadiums that other people would and have dreamed about working, one of them being Yankee Stadium. Yes, I'm not playing the sport, but that effort and that time commitment to the craft that was there for me playing said sport, playing basketball, playing Little League, and then getting hit by a pitch in my second year and deciding that I was scared to have the ball thrown at me again. I've been able to see so much more beyond just the playing of sport and playing of sports. In some cases, if you want to go into a career for sports and what sports in general, not just a team, and not just trying and applying and trying out for a team and not getting picked, but what that can teach you is through life. This goes beyond sport itself. You're interviewing for teams and you're trying to be on a front office staff. Sports is a highly competitive field, as there are many. Working in sports specifically is. I do sports broadcasting, that's even more selective. There are going to be a lot of times that you will be told, you're good, but we found someone else. And it will sting. And it will suck. And there will be times where you question whether God maybe even wants you to be doing it. I've been in that position before. It's not fun. But the thing is, those hardships, in a way, you've already faced if you played sports before. Because I tell you right now, if you played recreational sports, you have not gone completely undefeated. You have lost at least once, if not twice, if not 10, 50, 100 plus times. It might not get any easier having to deal with those losses and dealing with loss in general. But in this life where at times you could bring it all back to reps, sports is one place where you can get those reps of losing and getting right back up and getting back at it the next time. Sports as a whole is its own conglomerate from youth and pee-wee levels up to the professional levels to recreational leagues at any age that we have at our availability. But sports, in a way, and in its totality, teaches us so much about life. I'm not surprised that when people end up having kids, one of their first instincts, whether it be the dad going for it or the mom or the parent is signing them up for a sport. Whether that kid likes the sport or not isn't as much of a factor, because more often than not, that kid will get through the season and they will decide whether or not they want to do it. If they don't want to do it, that's fine. But getting involved in sports teaches you so much. It teaches us so much, and it can teach you, quite frankly, for the rest of your life. And knowing that and understanding that as it happens in real time, that's the beauty of sports. And if we can put it on that same playing field, if you would, that's the beauty of life.
Bonus content.
I had to talk about this. I mentioned it last week, and I stayed true to my word. Really cool that the Knicks won. I didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime. I did. I know, as of recording, this is right after Giannis also got traded to Miami, so let's see how that works for the Heat in the future. But shout out sports. Sports, whether you like it or not, you can't deny its impact on our lives, on the world, and on world's history. I hope you can look at it a little bit differently and look at it in a nicer way, maybe, or in a more unique way compared to others going forward. Bye now.